This is BYU Sports Nation, presented by the BYU Store. Simulcast on BYU TV and BYU Radio. Now live from Studio B, here's Jarom Jordan. And from Las Vegas, Spencer Linton.
BYU Sports Nation is live, your day-to-day play-by-play in Studio B, presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere. It is Monday, March 7th. Thanks for being here. I'm Jarom Jordan, teamed up with the guy who still has his temper recommend despite the weekend in Vegas, Spencer Linton.
Come on now. Got to keep my priorities straight, Jarom. Got to keep those priorities straight, brother.
No double.
It was a good weekend.
Beverages.
It was a clean weekend, and we are ready for more clean basketball, hopefully, on the BYU women's side on this Monday.
But the men, fun times. Let's talk about it. Here's what's coming up on this this Monday's show. Is BYU cooked after Saturday's loss against San Francisco? Mark Pope tells Spencer why the Cougars still deserve to be a tourney team. We'll break down the numbers as well. Do we have a problem with the last-second dunk by Bouyea of San Francisco? And why is the answer no? Women's Hoops plays Portland today in the semifinals. Paisley Harding tells Spencer Linton about the Cougars' motivation going into the only conference loss and one of two losses all year. And did Tyler Allgeier help himself at the NFL Combine despite running a 4.6? We'll talk about it, but first, let's grab some headlines.
All right, Jarom, let's go ahead and start with the men's basketball scenario that you just brought up. Well, they won on Friday, which was really awesome because they looked really good, 85-60, but then follow that up with a Saturday loss to San Francisco, 75-63. According to Joe Lunardi, he has BYU as the second team out. So in spite of the loss to San Francisco, BYU is still very much on the bubble, but on the wrong side of the bubble right now.
Number 17 Women's Hoops plays Portland, 3 Eastern on BYU TV in the WCC semifinals today. This season, BYU has 2 total losses, 1 in league. It was to Portland, as I mentioned. The Cougars still a 5 seed in Charlie Cream's ESPN bracketology.
Some BYU football news on a Monday. In preparation for transitioning to the Big 12 Conference in 2023, BYU drops a September 29th home game on the 23 schedule against the Rice Owls.
Dang it, said nobody. Tyler Allgeier ran a 4.6 at the NFL Combine, 23rd among the 27 running backs. He had a 33-inch vertical, that was 15th. 10-foot broad jump, that was 13th. He graded out at 6.12 out of 8 and is characterized as, quote, a good backup with potential to develop into a starter. More on Tyler later in the program.
14th-ranked BYU Gymnastics wins on senior night. The Cougars, led by Sadie Miner-Van Tassel, once again beat Washington and Illinois State in that tri-meet. Van Tassel won the all-around with 39.525.
Men's volleyball lost in 4 and 3 at number 6 USC. The losing streak is up to 9, the longest since 1991, which is also the last season BYU wasn't ranked in the top 15, which is likely happening today. BYU hosts Concordia Irvine this weekend on BYU TV.
Back to the happy news. The Batcats of BYU baseball win a weekend series in their home opening series against the Panthers of Milwaukee. And now they take on Oklahoma State, so it's back into the Power 5 competition for BYU. They're 4-0 against P5s this year.
7-3 overall, good team. And Oklahoma State at home. This is the future.
Yeah.
The future is this week. Let's go. Softball went 4-0 at the San Diego Classic, beating the Aztecs, Yale, UC San Diego, and Cal to improve to 13-4 this season. They're playing great ball. The Cougars played 5 this week, starting with Arizona State in Tempe. Remember, these two tangled in the NCAA regionals. BYU won a dramatic game to continue.
Some men's and women's tennis. We'll start with the men of BYU, who lost a couple of days in a row and got swept 4-0 at the hands of UCSB and Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. The women, well, they beat Utah State 5-2, so they held up their end of the bargain. You called them out, Jarom. They answered the call.
Yeah.
Next up for the ladies, they're at Grand Canyon on Friday.
Yeah, I just need to not lose to the Pac-12 anymore, you know what I'm saying? I've surfed once in my life. It was in San Luis Obispo. Now to golf. The women's team playing in the Julie Inkster Meadow Club Invitational in Fairfax, California, while the men are in the Lampkin Invitational in Chula Vista, California.
Yoli Childs continues to just crush it in the G League of the NBA. 21 points, 12 rebounds, in a loss for the Salt Lake City Stars, but who cares? He's crushing it. We don't care about wins and losses there.
Yeah.
Jake Toulson, 14 points, a couple of rebounds and an assist for his team in Germany, BG Gittingen. Brandon Davies with FC Barcelona had 13 points and 3 rebounds. And TJ Haas, 12 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists in a win, also in the G League for the Lakeland Magic.
It was Jake Toulson's birthday yesterday, so happy birthday to Jake. And shout out to
Happy birthday, Jake.
Coach Steve St. Pierre, my old roommate at the BYU, and the BYU men's rugby team, who destroyed Utah 57-5 on Saturday. Awesome. Also, former Cougar Calvin Whiting and the Utah Warriors set a major league record by scoring 69 points in a win against the Dallas Jackals. Nice work, guys. All rise and shout. It's time for What's Trending.
You're talking about it, and so are we. It's What's Trending on BYU Sports Nation.
What's Trending is presented by BYU Food to Go, the MVP of your next event. Spence, what happened Saturday against San Francisco?
Well, to sum it up, Jarom, BYU just did not play a very good basketball game. And let's specify some things. BYU didn't make three-pointers. You got to make threes to try and offset some of the size that San Francisco absolutely has and is an advantage for the Dons. So that's where it starts, is the three-pointers didn't go down. As much as people want to complain about the officiating, and it was awful on both sides of the ball, this was about BYU not making shots. You got to make shots. They just didn't. I thought BYU's defense overall was pretty good. Khalil Shabazz and Jamari Bouyea got going there a little bit in the second half, but they're part of the best backcourt in the conference. You know what you're going to get from them.
Better than Gonzaga?
There. BYU just man, I'm telling you what, Jarom, like in terms of individual skill sets, like Gonzaga's a better team for sure.
Yeah.
Gonzaga's backcourt is incredible for sure. But like individual skill sets, just like I think Jamari Bouyea and Khalil Shabazz absolutely could beat Gonzaga's guards in 2-on-2 or 1-on-1. Yeah, I think they're that good. They're just such good scorers. And they did a good job of really preventing Alex Barcelo from getting going. That was Shabazz primarily. I thought his defense was outstanding. So you got to make shots to offset the size. And it kind of fell off the tracks from there. But like really, BYU, we saw the lack of size from the Cougars, and it was accentuated by the fact that San Francisco made more shots.
Yeah, there was the dunk at the end. San Francisco made 2 more shots in the whole game. That was it, right? But 4 more threes. So, yeah, let's quantify some of the things you were saying there. 38% shooting, you're not going to win against a tourney team when you do that. Although San Francisco didn't shoot it much better at 43%. So, defensively, I felt like the door was open there, but BYU didn't walk through it on offense, like you said. 49 combined fouls, 55 free throws. Not as bad as the Santa Clara-San Diego women's game, which featured 88 free throws and 60 fouls, which you called the other day, which was super fun. But, yeah, 63 points scored is tough, and BYU's probably out, right? We'll talk in a second about what we think about their chances, but it just doesn't feel like there's a good shot here. Jerry Palm's like, going to die on the BYU's in the tourney hill, which is cool. And if it really happens, that's great. Maybe on Sunday we're like, hey, we actually got in. We were fine the whole time. We were worried. I don't know. It is disappointing, though, because we live in a world where this season someone not named Gonzaga and St. Mary's is better than BYU and the WCC. Every time that happens, it's disappointing. So that's the case this year. Because if BYU is better than San Francisco on Saturday, BYU's going to the dance. And it is unfortunate. I felt like Foose wasn't going to have a good game against the size of San Francisco. I was wrong. He did, 16-12. Like Foose gave BYU a shot this season to at least be bubblicious. Foose, I would argue, if you're talking straight value on this team, probably the MVP. AB is the best player. He's the leader. But I'm talking value for what happened with those injuries. Foose is the MVP of this season. He showed up. That was great. And I hope BYU's next game is in the first 4.
No question. He was fantastic. The first 4 conversation is interesting, and certainly when I had an opportunity to speak one-on-one with Mark Pope after a very disappointing loss, that was brought up. Also, the message to his team, and frankly, I told him to pitch BYU to the NCAA Tournament Selection Committee. So here's my interview with Mark Pope one-on-one.
Coach, I know you haven't had much time to process the loss against USF, but what was your message to the team, and where do you go from this point?
Well, my message to the team is I'm so proud of them. You know, we didn't play great tonight, but they put their whole heart on the floor. And we're not in the business of moral victories. You know, we're here to win, but you know, the first step in doing that is to have a full commitment with your heart and soul. And those guys certainly passed that first hurdle. We just couldn't pass all the other hurdles after it. And these guys have done that all season. It's a really special group. You know, in the end, like we haven't so far managed all the success that we hope for, but this is a special group of guys that still has great basketball in front of them, and it's just I'm just really blessed to be able to work with these guys.
Now, I know the big question for the committee and the people deciding who gets into the tournament is, well, how do you assess a team like BYU? And credit to you for winning 22 games and your guys losing Richard Howard, Gavin Baxter not having Seneca Knight available. So with all that said, what would your message to the selection committee be about hopefully including BYU in the field of 68?
Yeah, so I mean, listen, we have a great track record of a season, a body of work that I think is really, really impressive. I think, you know, when you look at the teams ranked ahead of us, there's 45, give or take a few teams in the metrics that are ranked ahead of us, and only 3 of those have played a harder non-conference schedule than us. So if you care about teams going out to play every single competitive game they possibly can, I think that's something to take in consideration. I think it's important. And I also think that playing that schedule sometimes it can wear you out in moments, and certainly we felt a little bit that with injuries, we felt a little bit that with everything else. But you know, I think that's something that I hope, you know, as we kind of rest here on this bubble, if you're talking about like, hey, this is a bubble team, but they went out and played the hardest non-conference schedule of anybody ranked ahead of them, almost 3 teams. I think that's what I would push teams for. We want to see great basketball. We want teams to go out and chase it, and these guys certainly did.
If you had to make an adjustment pushing into the postseason just to kind of get your guys right, mentally, physically, schematically, what would those changes be?
Well, listen, I mean, you know, we had a lot of things today. It was a little bit weird for us today. We've been dealing with pressure at the point of attack for the last 3 weeks, and we dealt with it really well. And inexplicably tonight, we just were a little bit rushed and a little bit harried, and we kind of lost some of that decision-making that we'd made. Give credit to San Francisco. Their on-ball pressure is great. Their second defender is really, really big and long and mobile, and so that has something to do with it. But us, in terms of like our play at the point of attack, is something we really need to improve on offensively. We got out rebounded for the 3rd consecutive time against San Francisco, and we're close. Our guys are fighting, they're battling. We just got to find a way to get more guys in the mix. And then in terms on the offensive end, not just the point of attack, but our functionality of, like, you know, I feel like we made good growth over the last 3 weeks in terms of playing with an edge, and I thought we made, which we did tonight for most of the game, and I thought we made great progress in this overlying theme with all the specifics underneath of it of making plays for our team. And today it was harder for us, and so those are areas we'll keep growing in, and you know, we have guys that are performing better and better every game, and I'm excited about the future of this team basketball wise. Like we have good stuff ahead of us. I continue to believe we have really good basketball ahead of us, notwithstanding the disappointment tonight.
How would you define the season to this point?
I think these guys have battled, man. I'm just so proud of everything they put into it. You know, it's been a season that's been really, really competitive. You know, these guys have logged a ton of really important wins, about wins that show better now than they did when we originally got them. Guys that have taken on, like we talked about, one of the hardest schedules in the country that we could possibly put together, and I think we haven't finished the story yet. That's what I'm excited about.
Now, if it is the NIT, obviously your guys want to play in the big dance, the NCAA tournament. But if it does come to the NIT, how do you get your guys ready to play in that tournament?
I don't have these guys are ready to play. I think we're going to spend zero time thinking about the NIT right now. We're hoping to find our way in the NCAA tournament. And unfortunately, now for the next 8 days, all we have to do, the only thing we can do is sit and hope, wait, pray. So that's what we're going to do.
Some scoreboard watching. And you know what? We'll throw in some BYU Sports Nation karma. The things shake out on the bubble in your favor. Mark, we appreciate the time. Thanks for coming over.
Thanks, baby. Okay.
All right, BYU head coach Mark Pope obviously frustrated and, as he said, praying that things shake out his way on the bubble, Jarom. But I want to go back to a soundbite because he says that maybe the resume is impressive enough. So let's replay that little segment where he's stating his case for BYU basketball.
I mean, listen, we have a great track record of a season, a body of work that I think is really, really impressive. I think, you know, when you look at the teams ranked ahead of us, there's 45, give or take a few teams in the metrics that are ranked ahead of us, and only 3 of those have played a harder non-conference schedule than us. So if you care about teams going out to play every single competitive game they possibly can, I think that's something to take in consideration. I think it's important.
All right, Jarom, is Mark Pope right? Is BYU men's basketball still an attractive option based on the body of work with the difficulty of schedule and the quadrant 1 and quadrant 2 wins in spite of them kind of tailing off?
Yeah, and to end the season, BYU won 5 of 7, so it's not like BYU won, went 2 and 5, but they were LMU and Pepperdine, wins 3 against LMU. It's tough because BYU's 55 in net. The net strength of schedule is 64. I know that Mark said, hey, we went out and challenged ourselves. The net non-conference strength of schedule is 106. It's not as good of a number as I think he was hoping for. The 4 quad 1 wins is good. There are teams ahead of BYU like Rutgers with 6. Wyomin's got 4 and a chance for more in the Mountain West Conference tournament, which might be a 4-bid league. Xavier has 5. The teams behind BYU like Dayton has 2. Net strength schedule 117. So there are some good numbers for BYU, but I'm not sure that in 6 days it's going to be good enough to get in. Well, I'm mostly sure that it's not. There has to be a miraculous string of chalky things and for BYU to have a shot here. So I'm not confident that BYU is going to get into the NCAA tournament. Had BYU beat San Francisco, boom, they're on the right side of the bubble. And you play tonight against Gonzaga, and you see what happens. But not feeling too great about the chances here, which is disappointing. In the end, a Pacific loss cost BYU here. If BYU does not lose Pacific, BYU's in right now. If BYU wins one more time against San Francisco or St. Mary's somewhere, certainly in at that point. So those 2 factors certainly played into this season. And, of course, Baxter and Harvard are a huge talking point here, but BYU did an excellent job of overcoming that for a long time, but then finally the dam broke.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, some things did fall in the right place for BYU over the weekend in terms of the bubble because there were no bid stealers out of the Ohio Valley Conference. Murray State won there. Loyola Chicago won the Missouri Valley, and a bunch of teams behind BYU lost, which is why the Cougars are still only 2 out, according to Joe Lunardi. And if you look at Jerry Palm's bracket, that's the big reason why BYU is one of the last 4 teams in a 12 seed. But how long can BYU hold on with their current metrics? I mean, when you look at the resume, their net number is 55. That's not typically, speaking of BYU and mid-major conferences, been a winning number for those teams to get into the lottery that sometimes is the NCAA tournament. If you're in a Power 5 conference and you have a net of 55, you got a better shot. But that's not the case for BYU. So Ken Palm 49. The Athletic also has BYU as the first team out. It's going to take a team like Wyoming, a team like SMU, those teams with Michigan kind of laying an egg in the Big Ten tournament, and Indiana not playing well in the Big Ten tournament. It's going to take a lot of things for BYU maybe to sneak in, but it ultimately comes down, Jarom, to what the committee values the most. Do they value the net ranking the most? Do they value the strength of non-conference schedule the most? Do they value the quad 1 wins the most? Who knows? And that's where the human element comes into play in this is what does the committee and the personnel on this year's specific committee value the most? If they value quad 1 wins and quad 2 wins and they put a great deal of emphasis into that and they're comparing like, hey, BYU played a tougher non-conference schedule than SMU or than Wyoming, if those things happen, that's where the human element benefits BYU. But that net ranking really feels like is hurting BYU in a lot of head-to-head comparisons. Where do they value things the most? That's what it's going to come down to.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like, Wake Forest is firmly in. Net strength of schedule 99, right? Creighton is 66 in net, but firmly in. It just depends. And then maybe they look at the WCC and they're like, hey, it's a 3-bid league. That was tough. They beat San Francisco. They beat St. Mary's, right? Maybe those have value. We will see. We will hope. We will hope and pray. It's both. Our question of the day. If you were a member of the NCAA Tournament Selection Committee, how much more money would you be making? No. Would you put BYU in your field of 68? Let's get to your responses in Voice of the Nation.
This is the Voice of the Nation on BYU Sports Nation.
Weigh in on the internet at JT_Lamoureux. I would absolutely 100% put them in, but I'm completely biased and I don't know how to take off my blue guard. So, yes, we are hoping that the committee sees it. We are way in on Joe Lunardi, right? Jerry Palm saying, yeah, BYU's in 11. Let's wait to see what he comes out with perhaps today about is BYU now on the bubble but still in for him. It's interesting. Yeah. We'll see what he says. Continue to weigh in on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
Yeah, for sure. And does Jerry Palm does he leave him in? Do they survive the week after all the tournament stuff? Coming up, Jarom, on to some BYU football. Did Tyler Allgeier improve his draft stock? His 40 numbers weren't great, but did he help himself?
And Kristen Kozlowski talks to Spencer about the matchup. Oh, there's Kristen. What's up? BYU and Portland in the semifinals. This is BYU Sports Nation.
Hi, Spencer Linton here, letting you know when your company joins the BYU team as a corporate partner, your brand can be featured in sports programming on BYU TV and BYU Radio. In addition to all of the great games, you can be part of the BYU coaches shows, place your message in Countdown to Kickoff, basketball pre- and post-game shows, and each weekday on BYU Sports Nation. We invite your team to join ours and become a corporate sponsor of BYU Athletics. For details, email sponsorship@byu.edu today.
Trio Orem Senior Living believes in empowering seniors to live life to the fullest. We help eliminate stress out of daily life when you live at Trio. Less time focusing on housework means you can socialize at one of our many events, with safety in mind, of course. And did we mention our spacious apartments with modern amenities? Learn more about setting up a private tour at trioorem.com.
We thank you for the newest addition to our family.
Where are you, Mom? I won't be here long, and I'll do whatever I can to find you and we can be a family.
If she knowed what a girl she has, she'd be here in a minute. You're not losing a family, you're getting another one. You're a part of me. Nobody can ever take that away from us.
BYU Sports Nation is presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere.
The 17th ranked BYU women's basketball team begin their WCC tournament run today in Las Vegas. Grudge match with one of the two teams to beat BYU head-to-head this season. The Portland Pilots. Watch the game live, 3 Eastern on BYU TV and the app. Welcome back to the Studio Orleans, live in Las Vegas. I'm Spencer Linton, and I have the pleasure of being teamed up with Kristen Kozlowski now, who's going to call the women's basketball game for BYU with me. Kristen, great to have you with us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, rematch versus Portland. BYU didn't get the home game in Provo because of a COVID shutdown, and they lost the only matchup head-to-head. So how much vengeance or anger or pent-up frustration will really play into this game for BYU, having only played the Pilots once and it was a loss?
Yeah, and absolutely. They're coming in with a big chip on their shoulder, which you would hope that they would. You come into this game knowing that that's your only blemish in WCC play. This is a BYU team that's 4 players, the average double figure. They have a lot of scoring power, a lot of players that are scoring in multiple ways, and so this is a team that's going to be hard to stop. But that Portland defense pressure you the entire game. Can they hold on to the basketball? And for Portland, it's like you've got to be able to hang and keep up with BYU, and they're going to have to get it done with their defense.
When you were playing and you had lost to a team earlier in the season and you just so happened to see them in the conference postseason tournament, how much does that really factor into your personal preparation and your team preparation?
Oh, I mean, you come in as a player and you're competitive at this level, right? If you've made it to the D1 and you've made it this far, you want to play the teams that you lost to because you want to prove that you're better than them. And I have no doubt that players like Paisley Harding and Shaylee Gonzalez, Lauren Gustin, these are the teams that they want to match again. And even Oklahoma lost. Like, these are teams that they want to play again and prove, nope, we're going through you because this is a team that we can prove that we can beat.
Now, it's worth noting that the first time around, Portland did have their star point guard, Haley Andrews, who went out with an unfortunate knee injury in that game against BYU. Portland has kind of had to reinvent itself a little bit. They looked great on Saturday for sure in their quarterfinal win, a dominant performance against LMU. But how different is this Portland team this time around compared to the team that BYU saw in the Pacific Northwest?
Well, in that Portland game, Haley Andrews went down earlier in the second quarter. So she goes down in the second, and Rose Flug, a player that was typically coming off the bench, stepped right in. And so obviously you're missing the passing ability of Haley Andrews, and you're missing what she can do with facilitating the ball. But Alex Fowler went off. I mean, 20-plus points on BYU. She's very hard to contain in there. They have a lot of senior leadership. They have a lot of players that came back, players that were in that 2020 team when they went all the way and upset that Cinderella story. They got all the way and won that WCC tournament title only for it to be canceled due to COVID. So this is a Portland team that comes in very experienced. They have what it takes to beat BYU, but not if BYU is playing their best. And they showed that when they had the ability to beat them when BYU wasn't at their best. They were turning the ball over. They had 20 turnovers in that game alone against the Pilots. And so they've got to take care of the basketball. But this Portland team, I really like how they play. I think they've really bought into Coach Meek and what he's been able to do the last 3 years. He's changing the culture of Portland. BYU just has too many weapons. And I think playing with a chip on their shoulder, they're going to come in and they're going to be fired up, ready to go. Now, they're at the disadvantage, right, because they have not shot in this gym yet. They have not been able to come in and be under the lights. Portland had that advantage Saturday. That's kind of the give and take, right? The pros and cons of playing Saturday, playing early. But BYU's had rest. And so they've had the full week off. They've had a full week somewhat to prepare for who they thought would be at this point in the semis. And so I think that's an advantage for BYU.
Yeah, and to your point, Paisley Harding straight up told me on Saturday night when I spoke with her, and we'll hear that entire conversation coming up, we wanted Portland.
Yes.
For obvious reasons, and now BYU has them. Kristen Kozlowski is with us on BYU Sports Nation. Kristen, maybe you already answered the question with what BYU has to do better. Certainly, you can't turn the ball over 20 times.
Yes.
But Portland's got a really, really frustrating, almost annoying defense that they will throw at you most of the game. So besides taking better care of the ball, what else does BYU need to do better in the matchup with Alex Fowler and the Pilots?
Well, they got to be big on the boards. Boards is going to be a big one, too. Rebound, creating extra opportunities, extra possessions. You got one of the best rebounders in the nation, let alone in the league, with Lauren Gustin. She's 8th in the nation right now in rebounds per game. So she's going to be a lot to handle for Portland there. But Portland's going to play zone a lot of the time. That's what BYU saw when they were at their place. They played a lot of zone in that game. So BYU has to figure out how to work into that soft spot of the zone, get the ball in the middle of the zone, and then work out of there and not just settle for outside shots. So offensively, work to the middle, do well on the boards. Their game is playing fast. So push and transition. Anytime they can create turnovers with their defense, they're going to look to push and get easy buckets in transition.
Let's say BYU women's basketball wins this West Coast Conference tournament. They handle their business against Portland. They right the ship, if you will. And then they take care of either Gonzaga or San Francisco, whoever wins that game and is into the final. Is that enough to improve the seed line for the BYU women? Because right now it feels like they are firmly a 5 in some brackets, a 6, which I just don't understand at all. Can they improve their seed line even if they win and are dominant down here?
Well, that's exactly what Jeff Judkins told us. Is he said that if we win the tournament title, we should be a 4 seed. And we've gone back and forth right on that argument of, can they host? Will they be able to host at BYU? It's difficult to host at BYU as a 4 seed. I think they've earned the 4 seed if they win the tournament title. Absolutely. They've done enough with their record. Their net is high enough. They're at a 9 right now. They have enough quad 1 wins. I mean, this is where they should be placed. And take out the factor of that it's difficult to host at the Marriott Center with what they have going on and things, and not being able to play on Sunday. BYU should earn a 4 seed if they win the tournament.
Yeah, for me, it's just like, hey, I don't care where you play. You want the best or easiest matchups, per se. And so if you're a 4 seed, then I guess you would get better matchups. Send them wherever
Absolutely.
to play, but give them what we feel like they have earned and deserve. All right, before we get off this women's basketball topic, because I do want to ask you about the BYU men as well. What makes this team unique and special? We keep hearing this is the best team that Jeff Judkins has ever coached at BYU. You played on a really good team under Jeff Judkins. So what makes them unique and sets them apart from any other BYU team that's been in the Jeff Judkins era?
Well, I think there's a lot of leadership. We know that. I mean, you had players come back that, because of that COVID-free year, they're able to come back an extra year and come into this program and really step up and be an extension of Judkins out there on the court, particularly Tegan Graham. She will stop practice and make them take responsibility if they're not running the play right. I mean, I can't think of a player when I played or a player in the last couple of years that has done that and taken that responsibility on her shoulders to say, we didn't execute in practice, and we're going to run it again, Judd. So she'll stop practice and do that. But she's just one example. And you've got Paisley Harding, who's a fantastic leader in there. But this BYU team can score in many different ways. So you look at teams sometimes throughout the WCC that score inside or can't hit from the outside, or they can score in transition, but they really struggle maybe in the half-court set. That's not the case with BYU. They can score in transition. They can beat you in the half-court set. They can score inside with Lauren Gustin. You bring in a whole other element when you put Sarah Hampson in the game. And then they can really score on the outside. And you got two of the best players in Paisley Harding and Shaylee Gonzalez that can take you off the dribble. They can punish you from the outside. So multiple ways that they can score. But I think also that makes them so dominant is their defense. They're executing the game plan. They think the game plan. They come in, take away your strengths, and they don't make a lot of mistakes.
All right, Kristen, now to the BYU men who, in a very disappointing fashion, are firmly on the bubble after losing to San Francisco. Wherever BYU's playing, whether it's in the NIT or they sneak in as one of the final teams into the tournament, what do they have to do better when they get to whatever tournament play they're in?
I think other players need to step up. I think that's what we've seen the last couple weeks. You got players that were injured from early on inside in the post, and then Seneca Knight, you lose him the last couple weeks. So who's going to step up? We saw Foose have a great game on Saturday, but Barcelos had to carry it. So who is going to be the extra co-star consistently? And when you're playing in the postseason, guard play is so important. And so I think they need more out of Tijon Lucas. I think he needs to be more of an assertive leader offensively, put himself in the offense more. But Barcelo's doing so much, and we saw that game on Saturday. They were able to key on him and follow him and tell him everywhere and just be physical with him. That's a lot on your shoulders as a player. So they need more role players to step up.
All right, let's hang out in a couple hours and do this, huh?
Be there.
Kristen Kozlowski, thanks for the time.
Always.
She's the best. You already know that. All right, coming up, my one-on-one as promised with Paisley Harding. And did Jamari Bouyea's dunk from San Francisco to emphatically end the game against BYU bother you? We'll discuss. This is BYU Sports Nation.
This portion of BYU Sports Nation is presented by BYU Food to Go, the MVP of your next event.
Tim Daly Ford in Spanish Fork sells Ford vehicles including the F-150, the pickup designed for work and play. Tim Daly Ford maintains a large inventory, providing more choices for selecting an F-150 with the power and engineering to carry and tow heavy loads. The F-150's design offers comfort, safety, and a range of options to choose from. Think Ford. Think Tim Daly Ford in Spanish Fork.
If I got hurt and was laid up at home, I wouldn't even think to call a lawyer. What a hassle. I'd want to meet them first.
What if I told you that for your first consultation, your lawyer will come to you, home or hospital?
Really?
Really.
They do that?
If you've been seriously injured, we'll come to you. It's your job to get better. It's our job to deal with the insurance companies and protect your legal rights.
Learn more at siegfriedandjensen.com.
Hey family, if you're looking for something new to watch, stop scrolling and start streaming. BYU TV has a ton of great options to binge together. From bold adventure to family drama and even a little fun, there's something for everyone. Binge entire series, experience all the feels, immerse in non-stop intrigue, and treat yourself to unexpected turns. Think you know BYU TV? We're just getting started.
BYU Sports Nation is brought to you by Maersk, enabling global trade for a growing world.
We invite all of you to enter for your chance to win one of 5 BYU basketball prize packs, including autographs from the men's and women's teams, socks, a mini hoop, and more by following BYU TV Sports on Instagram. Like the post and tag friends for more entries.
It ends tonight. We'll announce the 5 winners tomorrow, so get busy. Get busy. Let's go. He is Spencer in Vegas. I am Jarom in Provo. This is BYU Sports Nation. Follow us on social media as well, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Let's whip it. Cougar Whip Round is presented by Maersk, your integrated container logistics company enabling global trade for a growing world.
Jarom, were you bothered by the Bouyea dunk at the end of the BYU San Francisco quarterfinal game?
No, I was bothered by BYU shooting 3 of 15 from 3. That bothered me more.
Yep.
After he was asked about it at the press conference and said, hey, they said some stuff that was personal, and Todd Golden kind of sanctioned that, right? BYU was asked about it. Mark Pope said, no, we gotta play better and win the game. I'm not bugged. I can understand why you're bugged, but I'm more bugged by BYU's inability to win the game. That's what bugs me the most.
Yeah, certainly. It doesn't feel good when, there's a big dunk at the end of the game and BYU fans are angry because their team's not advancing. The one thing that did kind of not sit with me well was Todd Golden's endorsement of that. As a head coach, you know what? If it were me, I would have said, Bouyea is a great player, an emotional player. He made an emotional play. And sometimes that happens in the game. And then it's not an issue at all. But by him saying, I'd have told him to do it too, then it becomes this unnecessarily big issue. Like, it just downplay it, and then it's not a thing, and we're not talking about it, really.
Act like you've been there before. Oh, wait, San Francisco hasn't. This isn't a place they've been. Like, they're excited about stuff. BYU be better, then it's not a talking point. Okay, BYU's a 1 seed.
Fair.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Win the game, and it's not an issue.
Win the game. BYU's a 1 seed in NY Buckets NIT brackets. Your thoughts?
I hate it so much, Jarom.
Me too. It's so stupid.
I hate so much that we are viewing BYU in this current reality. Like, yeah, you know what? If you're going to go to the NIT, be a number 1 seed and have home games that would hypothetically lead you all the way to Madison Square Garden, that's fantastic. But I just hate that we have to discuss this reality right now. This BYU team should be in the NCAA tournament. They shouldn't have lost to Santa Clara. They shouldn't have lost to Pacific. And the West Coast Conference should have 4 teams in the tournament. That's the reality.
Now, this is a school with a rich history of NIT tradition. Recently, in the past decade, a Tyler Haws, Chase Fisher, Brandon Davies team went to Madison Square Garden. And, of course, 1951 and 66 championships, led by Mel Hutchins, Roland Minson, and Dick Nemelka. We value those a lot. But the NIT sucks, so no, I hate this. Name the winner from last year of the NIT, by the way. I have no clue who it is. I don't care.
No idea.
I don't care.
No idea.
No idea.
No idea. Did Tyler Allgeier improve his draft stock at the NFL Combine after some slower than expected 40 times, among other things?
He didn't improve it, but I don't know that he hurt it. Like, I don't know that he's dropping to like the 6th or 7th round. We were hoping for like 3rd or 4th round. Maybe he's a late 4th, 5th round guy. The film speaks for itself. That's what we'll say when these numbers aren't convenient, right? We were hoping that Tyler would run like a 4.5. We both kind of guessed that he'd run a 4.41 and 4.48. Not even close. But yes, he is an NFL running back backup somewhere. That's going to happen regardless of those numbers from the combine.
We spend a lot of time talking about body of work with these tournament resumes. Well, there's a body of work at the NFL Combine, too. We just place so much emphasis, and we, the media, is what I mean, on the 40 time. But you know what? He had a decent broad jump, pretty good vertical, middle of the pack. He wasn't even the slowest running back at the Combine, for crying out loud. And he's very impressive in his interviews and in his sit-downs. Very cerebral kid. They love his humility and his hard work. Like, he has a bigger resume from the Combine and his actual game playing at BYU than just the 40 time. And frankly, Jarom, he can improve his 40 time when BYU runs it at their own NFL Pro Day. So it's not all said and done at this point.
Yeah, exactly. If he runs like a 4.59 or so, just a little bit better, it's like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
And not every running back in the NFL is like running a 4.4 or a 4.5. Not everyone's like speedsters at that level. It's all good. It's all good, man. Okay, which of the following do you think was Tyler's best 40 time? 2020 game versus Boise State where he had the 86-yarder. 2021 versus Utah State where he almost scored. Or the punch-out versus Arizona State last year?
Oh, hands down, it's the punch-out. The ability to run down that guy after he was blocked twice and slowed. Like, the fact that he caught him and then punched it out, that by far was his best 40.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Although he was galloping on this Boise State and Utah State stuff. Listen, Mountain West Conference runs, those were too easy. This was at least a challenge against Arizona State. Let's see if you guys can go score a touchdown. Oh, you cannot. I will punch it out.
Fantastic stuff. Oh, the highlight. So amazing. Okay, Jarom, Joe Pompliano, who writes on Sports and Business, he's taken notice of some of the athletics facilities at BYU, specifically Miller Park. Miller Park number 14 in terms of most beautiful sports venues in the world. In the world, any sports venue. Is that too high, too low, or just right?
Listen, I'll take it. It's probably too high, but guess what? We love it. We're a little biased here, or a lot of bias here. It's amazing. Honestly, I love looking through this thread. Like, BYU's Miller Park is ahead of, like, a soccer field in Greenland, the F1 circuit in Monaco. It's like, what? Which was featured in, what, Iron Man 2, I think? Is that where that was?
Yes.
Crazy.
Yes.
Like, just behind, like, The Ground, which is this famous soccer field on a rooftop in Manhattan. Like, wild stuff.
Yeah, the mountains are super impressive. It's like a mini Alps, with a baseball field in front of it. Fantastic. But anything in front of Monaco is incredible.
We'll take it.
Holy
Let's
cow.
go.
All right, coming up, our double down picks from over the weekend.
And Paisley Harding goes one-on-one with Spencer, the motivation of wanting to play Portland today in the semifinals and what they can do to improve the resume. This is BYU Sports Nation from Provo and Vegas.
I know what it's like to be overlooked, to be doubted, to fly under the radar. I only had one offer coming out of high school, but I was ready for every moment, every opportunity, and every shot that I got. Now I'm playing professional basketball, aiming to be one of the best shooters on the planet. And I'm just getting started. Be ready for your moment with Rapid Reboot, the future of rapid recovery.
They prefer to be bringing the heat, getting set for success, demonstrating their drive. But But when their blood and sweat turns to tears or anything else, we lay the groundwork for BYU's athletes to hit the ground running again. And you as well. Intermountain Healthcare, official medical provider for BYU Athletics.
You're not the new coach.
You expecting somebody different? Last time you coached was 12 years ago?
I was hired to teach the boys a game of basketball, and I did that to the best of my ability.
I play, coach stays, he goes, I go.
No school as small as ever been in a state championship.
I want to win for my dad.
Let's win for Coach. You got us here. I love you guys.
BYU Sports Nation is presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere.
BYU TV, your home for the West Coast Conference women's semifinal games today. Coverage begins at 3 Eastern, noon Pacific. The 1-seed BYU taking on number 4 Portland, and at 5 Eastern, roughly, 2-seed Gonzaga against the 3-seed USF Dons. Watch the action on BYU TV or the app. Welcome back to BYU Sports Nation, live from the Orleans Arena in Las Vegas. Jarom Jordan will join us again in just a moment. I am Spencer Linton, and in just over 2 hours, a very motivated BYU women's basketball team will face those Portland Pilots, a team that beat the Cougars head-to-head earlier this season. On Saturday, prior to the BYU men's game, I spoke with one of the many BYU women's stars, Paisley Harding, about the proverbial vengeance match.
Paisley finally made it to Las Vegas with the BYU women's basketball team. The triple bye, well-earned, well-deserved, but you kind of have to wait a while to play. So what are your emotions like as you watch a bunch of the other teams playing conference before you finally get on the floor?
Yeah, so I've been watching the games for like the past 2 days, and I'm just itching to get back out on this court. It's like a beautiful court. I think it's really nice. And so I'm just ready to get out there and play. We have, I think, 2 more days, yeah. Today and then Sunday, and then Monday we'll be able to get on the court. So I'm so excited.
You've already made some great memories in this building, on this floor, but last year, a bitter taste for sure, losing on a questionable buzzer beater at the hands of Gonzaga. How much does that play in the back of your minds and motivate you now this year?
I mean, I have been in this championship game twice now, and I won one and I lost one, and I'm trying to end on good notes. So yeah, I haven't thought too much about last year's loss, just because we were able to go to the NCAA the next week. We found out we were, which was that was a great surprise. But yeah, I'm definitely going to be a lot harder on myself and my team, making sure we're doing everything correct in our games to make sure nothing is even close to being a slip up this year.
How do you handle the proverbial rust that the team may have because you've had an extended layoff? Though you have gone through this earlier this year because of a COVID shutdown. So what have you learned from that, and what are you going to do this time around?
I mean, every single day that we have practice, our team's so competitive that we're always going at each other. So, I mean, we're used to it. We play each other so tough, maybe the toughest we've played against all season. So it's really fun. Practices are great, and I think that's what is the best for us. I mean, we don't have one tomorrow, but we'll try and do a little bit of yoga or something to stay fresh.
Okay, your team received the all-conference honors. I know that there was a little bit of an issue, at least internally, with Tegan not being honored on one of those teams. How do you handle that emotionally, and how do you boost her morale if it's down at all?
Well, she made honorable mention, which was amazing, but I think every single one of our starters and even Sarah should have been mentioned and given some credit, just because of how amazing our team is this year and everything they've done to contribute. So, I don't know, I really wish Maria had gotten some conference recognition, because she deserves it. She's played so tough in this league for the past 5 years, so I wish she would have got a little something, but I know she's going to show out to this whole week in this tournament, so I'm excited for her.
You match up with Portland, who survived today. They beat LMU, who kind of had a Cinderella run going. Obviously, Portland's only one of 2 teams to have beaten you head-to-head, so how does that factor into your preparation and how you approach that game with them?
I mean, I kind of think back to last year. We lost to San Francisco, one of our last games. It was our last game this season, and we lost them. And we came into the tournament, and we played them and beat them by think 40 or something like that. So I hope it's something similar to that. We've worked a lot on how we can feel more comfortable in their press and in their zone, and I think we've been able to do that this week. I'm super excited to play them, and I'm glad we get to play them and have our redemption, and maybe show them like that night was just a little off night for us.
What is the key to handling their pressure? Because it's constant and almost annoying if you have to play against it all game long.
Patience. That's what Lee and Jetty and all our coaches have been telling us all week. Be patient. Almost let someone get trapped where you can come and help them and be to the rescue to get in front of them. So it's just patience. I think that's a big thing for us this week, and just making the right play, making the easy play, and not trying to make the home run pass.
Paisley Harding is with us on BYU Sports Nation, getting set to take on Portland in the semifinals of the West Coast Conference. Paisley, when you look at a number 17 national ranking and a projected 5 seed, I know you try and block that out and just focus on one game at a time, but how do you balance that personally when the national accolades are kind of rolling in for this team?
I love the ESPN app. I get notifications every single time. I'm always looking at bracketology. I love stuff like that. But, I mean, it's all every single game that's ahead of us is what's really important, and I think our team knows that. It's so fun to have this like national recognition because I think we deserve it. I think we're a really great team, and we've really built on our success. So I'm really happy for my team that we get to have that and maybe kind of feel a little glamorous.
There are a lot of people that, while you are ranked and are pacing for a 5 seed, feel like maybe you're not getting enough respect. Do you buy into that? And if so, does it fuel you somehow?
I know the politics of life. I've felt them, and so I think it's just part of the game. It's part of life. We might think really highly of ourselves, and maybe other people do, our fans, but what really matters is what the people that are writing down our numbers is doing. So, I mean, I don't try to get too caught up into that. So I like to fire at my team sometimes, like, you guys are going to hate this, but it's whatever. It is what it is. Just the fact that we have a chance to go to the NCAA tournament again, and we know that for sure, is a really cool blessing to have, and I'm excited.
How are you handling the emotions of this all as a senior?
It's weird because I know this will be my last time playing on this court, and then all we have left is the NCAA tournament, and I'm like, okay, well, that's college for me. Like, that's it. That's what I dreamt of when I was a little high schooler. So it's kind of surreal. I'm really happy with what I've been able to do so far at BYU. I hope I can do a little bit more, but yeah, it's a blessing to be able to have the success I've had and the career I've had, and I'm just really happy with what I've done and the person I've become. So it'll be good. It's just going to be weird. Like, that's the word I just keep using.
Your coach has called you the toughest player he's ever coached. How do you feel about that honor, if you will, from the lips of your coach?
Well, he's got something right, I guess. Just kidding. No.
Oh, look who it is.
What are you doing? What is she saying about me?
She's saying you're an amazing coach and that she agrees with you. She's the toughest player you've ever coached.
Well, I agree with that, too. She is the toughest. No, what a joy to coach this young lady. I've been so lucky for 5 years to coach Paisley, and there's not a kid that works harder than her and listens, and she's gotten better every year. So she's looking forward to this tournament.
So are we. And while I have both of you here, let me issue a double dose of the BYU Sports Nation karma. Okay? Full dose for you, Paisley, and a full dose for you, Juddy. We'll take care of business against Portland. Thanks for the time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good to have you.
Thanks, Spencer.
Love the impromptu appearance from Jeff Judkins, who was standing by next to the camera the entire interview. All right, we're coming back with our Double Down recap and a rise and shout out. It's game day for the BYU women. Stay with us on BYU Sports Nation.
Okay, man, you got this. It's not that bad. Okay, it's a little bad. Just do it. Woo! That was unbelievable.
Some things seem scarier than they really are, like buying a home. But your loan officer at Intercap Lending will help you get pre-approved and walk you through every step of the process. Intercap Lending, a name you can trust since 1978.
I'm okay.
And now, introducing your Mountain America All-Stars. Out of BYU, Alex Barcelo and Shaylee Gonzalez.
Thanks for the warm welcome.
So, is this where we get the BYU card?
But of course.
the only place you can.
This is really cool.
Yeah, but mine's better.
No way.
Get your BYU card from Mountain America today. It's perfect for students, alumni, and super fans.
Familiar with the BYU TV app? Yes.
I beg your pardon?
Sure, it's got great original TV shows. But it also gives you access to family films for free.
Wow. Awesome!
So gather around, grab some popcorn, and let us do the rest.
It'll be fun.
Watch some of your favorite films anytime, anywhere. With the free BYU TV app.
I like it.
Ladies and gentlemen, Will Forte!
Honey, look! My wish must have come true! You two are bombing. Buddy, come on, help me out here. We got it. You know we got it. Come on. I'm undercover as a cat. Yeah, I'm very good at assuming other identities. No. I'm in too deep. I need to catch that laser dot.
This portion of BYU Sports Nation is presented by Mountain America, the official credit union of BYU Athletics.
BYU Sports Nation is always available on demand via the free BYU TV and BYU radio apps. Let's recap Double Downs, which I have basically won, but let's go through it. Spencer, walk us through yours.
All right, I said BYU men's basketball on Friday would have at least a 6-point lead at halftime. They were a 10.5-point favorite in the game. BYU crushed LMU. They were up by 15 at half. The game was essentially over at halftime, so I got that one right. And then on Saturday, I pushed my second pick forward to the game against San Francisco, doubling down on that. BYU got there. Said T.J. Lucas would have at least 10 points and 5 assists. BYU, I felt, needed that at least to compete, and he didn't get there. It was close. He didn't get there. 8 points, 4 assists, so no go on the second pick for me.
One, BYU have 4 or more assists against LMU. Yep, they were +6. Joe Quintana, who made 8 threes the game before, would have 0, 1, or 2 made threes. He had 1. So I got 3 points there. The standings as of now. I have 41 points. You have 24. This thing's over, right? Like, BYU's not going to play 5 games? Over. They can't play 5 games. They're in a 32-team tournament in the NIT, probably. Is it officially over right now? Have I won? I think I've won. Let's just call it. The white flag is up. It's been
the white
over.
flag is up for me,
It's been over
Jarom.
since January, by the way. Anyway, our question of the day. If you were a member of the NCAA Tournament Selection Committee, would you put BYU in your field of 68? Our elite voice of the day is presented by Sundance Mountain Resort. Jason Thomas on Twitter. Does body of work matter more or the last month? Do Q1 wins matter or momentum? I'd sure love to see BYU play against a team without WCC officiating. Well, there it is. It took 57 minutes for us to mention the refs. Yeah, it's all good. Today's Rise and Shoutouts are presented by Mountain America, the official credit union of BYU Athletics.
All right, Jarom, how about this? BYU Rugby helping the Cougars continue their dominance over the Pac-12. 57-5 win over the Utes. Pac-12 champs, baby, let's go.
Just crushing it. Shout out to Steve St. Pierre. And, of course, best of luck to women's basketball because boom goes the dynamite. Semifinals coming up here. Thanks to today's guests, Mark Pope, Kristen Kozlowski, and Paisley Harding, and Jeff Jackson.
Conversation continues 24/7 on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can always use the hashtag BYUSN.
Sorry to Dennis, we ran out of time. For Spencer, I'm Jarom. Shout out to Tressa Spalding. Join us at 3 Eastern for BYU women's basketball versus Portland in the West Coast Conference semifinals. Go Cougs, baby!